Good evening and welcome to Social Chatter, episode 105. I'm here tonight with Christian Karasevich, the founder and host of the show. I'm Nick Rishwain. I am a co-host here, been doing it for about 60 episodes, and our guest tonight is our friend Morris Lilienthal. You can also call him Mo. I like Mo, and that's what I've been calling him since he told me I could do that. Mo is a 2003 graduate of Cumberland School of Law. He is a practicing lawyer in Huntsville, Alabama. And prior to law school, this is one of my favorite things about Mo. Mo attended Maryville College in Tennessee, where he played offensive tackle on the football team, double majored in biology and political science, and he made the Maryville all-academic team every year. Mo was also the vice president of his senior class and honored with the Dean's List. He is a personal injury. Is it medical malpractice as well, Mo, or is it personal injury and significantly or substantially?
Substantially personal injury, yeah.
It is, okay. In Huntsville, Alabama, he's with the firm Martinson Beeson, and you've been practicing what, about 14
years?
14 years now. Anyway, Mo and I sort of hit it off early on in a Legal Minds mastermind group that we're both a part of. He's really jumped in wholeheartedly with social media in the last probably, I guess it would be about a year now, huh, Mo?
That's right.
Yeah, and he's done it so well that I happened to find myself in a conversation with the Alabama State Bar, somebody who ran their Twitter account, and I brought up Mo, and they were aware of his cranked up efforts at social media. So Mo, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here. What else did I miss that I should have added about your bio there?
Well, very flattering, and I really appreciate you guys having me on. I've been really enjoying watching this show over the last several months as Nick brought me into the fold to introduce me to the show. It's a great way for professionals, business owners, because I'm certainly a practicing lawyer, but probably first and foremost, just as much as I'm a business owner, and we do a lot of marketing, social media marketing on it with our firm. And as Nick said, I've been on social for a long time, but really gotten really hardcore active within the last year. And so this has allowed me to take nuggets that you guys are sharing and figure out how I can incorporate that into either my personal social media efforts or professionally at my law firm. And interesting, I think I'd share with you guys is that right now I'm in Nashville, and I'm at one of the biggest legal marketing conferences every year. It's called PILMA. It's Personal Injury Lawyers Marketing, and it's pretty cool. So some of the things that you guys talk about on here, and how business are using social and Facebook Live, like in platforms like Zoom. We were talking about a lot of those things today and really reaffirming what you guys have shared with your audience.
Excellent. That is good to hear. And it seems one thing that Mo was telling us about telling me prior to going live at the PILMA conference is that much of what was being covered in that conference is something that we do about twice a week in Legal Minds Mastermind group that's run by Mitch Jackson. And that's nice to hear. I think Mitch will be happy to hear that much of what's been covered at this conference is stuff that we're all doing in a smaller mastermind group. I think that goes to Mitch's leadership in that group. Christian, what have you got for us tonight from the other side of the world?
I'm ready to actually kick off today's topics. I'm excited about these topics.
Okay. Yeah. I think you're more excited than I am.
I'm excited about these because there's a lot of advertising, in these topics. But I think that, as a business, you really need to be paying attention to advertising. You can't just do let me post content and expect people to find it.
Right.
It's getting more and more complicated to get in front of your audience. But using advertising can help supplement that and get you, in front of the right people.
That's right. Mo and I were actually talking yesterday about some Facebook ads that we've been running. So actually this first story that comes from Facebook came out September 12th. is about the updated ads manager. And this is something I actually need to spend some more time learning. I've been doing some boosted posts recently, and I really need to crank up my my targeting and increase my knowledge on this. So Facebook says, this article says, they're always looking for ways to make advertising on Facebook easier for businesses, which is why they're combining the powerful ad creation and editing features of the Power Editor with the ease of use and familiarity advertisers love in the Ads Manager. So they're putting this all in one tool. Starting later this week, which is this week we're in, advertisers will begin to see an updated Ads Manager interface where they previously found Ads Manager or Power Editor. The updated Ads Manager interface is designed to feel familiar without sacrificing any capabilities the advertisers enjoyed from the old Power Editor. Now, I've never used the old Power Editor. I have used the Ads Manager. Creation flows that work best for each advertiser. They're committed to supporting users who preferred Power Editor's quick creation, as well as those who liked Ads Manager's guided creation, which is why in the updated Ads Manager, people will automatically be opted in to the workflow they used in the past. So that makes the integration or the changes very easy for everyone. Everyone will have the option to change their preferred workflow at any time using a button in the top right of the creation window. You'll be able to work with drafts. You'll also have a single source for reports. And those are kind of the two main items of this. Automatic drafts were a popular element, evidently, of the Power Editor. So they made sure to bring the draft features to the updated Ads Manager. And the updated Ads Manager combines the comprehensive charts and activity history of the Power Editor with the breakdowns, summary rows, date, benchmarks, exported insights, reports, and the ability to customize columns from the Ads Manager. And Christian, what are your thoughts on this? You have done a heck of a lot more in Power Editor and Ads Manager than I have.
I think overall, this is fantastic news for business owners. The reason being is if people, here's the thing, when you start using Facebook ads, they can be very complicated. So you're going to want to run typically the Facebook Ads Manager tool. And they've made a ton of improvements to that part of Facebook to where it kind of guides you along. What do you want to do? Previously, people would get, they get into like Facebook Ads Manager and that stuff wasn't there. So now that it's there, it's this guide along track. The reason this is so important for businesses though, is that, well, at some point you're going to kind of want to take the training wheels off and move into a more advanced way to run ads. And that's going to be to use Power Editor. And now that Power Editor is no longer, its own separate tool, you're going to get, you're going to kind of be able to progress through Facebook's, guided tour and then get into using a lot of those advanced tools for you in Facebook Ads Manager. That's the first thing. And the second thing also that I think is important is the fact that when you wanted to run any sort of reports, here's what would happen. People would run their ads in Facebook Ads Manager. And then if they wanted to run reports, they go to Power Editor because they got better data. Now, here's the other issue with that. The data didn't really match up. So what you saw in Facebook Ads Manager and what you saw in Power Editor, you were always like, well, try answering to your boss. Well, why is this number, 500 and this one's 300 or this one's, 500 and this one's 450? Like, that made it really difficult. So now everything is going to actually be in one location so you can make that natural progression. By the way, Facebook also they have a lot of really good training actually on Facebook ads themselves. They've been putting out a lot of courses with some other companies. And so this is actually going to be really good because I think all of this stuff is going to converge together at some point, not just Ads Manager and Power Editor, but also those courses, I think.
Excellent. Excellent. Mo, I know that you have outside marketing for some of what you do, but have you played with the Ads Manager in any of the Power Editor? Have you done any of that yourself?
Well, I have a little bit of experience working with the Ads Manager. I will boost post and we'll go in and certainly start limiting our demographic and start trying to narrow down within a geographic region, what we're trying to do. If we're trying to boost a certain blog post that we think applies or, if I'm targeting certain people for, my March of Dimes things, we might have trying to add where I'm trying to promote a charity, where I'm trying to identify certain people within a certain segment. So I've got some familiarity with this, but from a business owner standpoint, that's kind of what I thought I'd maybe give you, certainly a small businessman's perspective, regardless of whether you're in legal or not. I think, what I'm hearing from Christian is this streamlines everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I'm wanting numbers, I'm wanting, why is the data different? I want to know what the data really is. And so from what I'm hearing from Christian, this is streamlining. And even if you're in a small business and you're not doing maybe all of this on your own, I know that I like to be able to go in and look at the analytics of things. And so if I can go in and behind the agency that we work with on this, and then be able myself to be able to digest, hey, how was that Facebook promotion or ad that we just did, that we spent, Nick's aware of one that we just recently did where we did a $250 spend, and we had a tremendous success with, 25,000 impressions and, 80 or so shares and, all this stuff. But I'd love to, without having to rely totally on them, for me to be able to go in and be able to digest it. And it certainly sounds like this feature is going to allow a business owner to be able to be more user friendly.
I agree with that, and I guess probably from the small business person now. I'm not the owner. I'm not the business owner, but I am the daily operations person for a small business, and I think probably one of the things for that, when you have an outside marketing company, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Mo, but that's probably wanting to go back and see, because you do want to do some double checking on what you're. And not that you distrust them, but maybe, okay, well, they told me this, but I need to understand a little better. And I really need to have my finger on a heartbeat with what they're doing. So this will give you that same opportunity. If you have the same access that they do, you can go and understand it and see what's working and what's not working. That way, when you go and talk with your outside marketing group, you can actually talk to them intelligently about what your next step is going to be. I know that we did this and this worked really well. But, in this other thing that you're kind of recommending, maybe that didn't work so well for me. And I don't think we should do that.
Well, and I think in anything that I've learned in the success that we've had in social media marketing and the success we've had with search engine optimization is I found a lot of friends that'll say, well, how come you're doing so well or doing? And they want to, maybe see what we're doing. But it is not a set it and forget it type of side. This is not a run for bill thing, right? You can't set it and forget it. You've got to figure it out. But I'll give you an interesting statistic today. So one of the presenters today was talking about Facebook Live and how to use it and do. And she was saying that that only 6% of posts now are showing up organically on Facebook. So, businesses are going to have to start using these ads and boosting ads and doing promotions to really get their message out there to be seen and heard.
Absolutely. I noticed it. We talked about it yesterday. We've started boosting posts, and it's the only way our posts are being seen on Facebook. Christian, anything else on this item before we move on to the next?
I just wanted to say, I think you both made fantastic points about the fact that now that everything is going to be in one location, it's going to give you, the business owner, the ability to, not just say, well, hey, let me look at those numbers that agency gave me. Because here's the thing, every agency is a little different. Like we run an agency and, we have people saying, hey, we run this type of, they're telling us to run this type of ad. And, and I push back on that. And I'm like, well, hey, that's a good ad if, for instance, you have a really warm audience. But if you're just running, for instance, a page like ad and people are not, if you're running a page like ad, people are not, they don't know you, they don't know your brand, they don't know your business, and you're like, hey, I want people to like my page. You have to be really awesome to be able to get them to like your page at that point. And so it's going to give you the ability as a business owner to feel more confident. That's the key thing, to feel confident in the fact that you can look at the data and you can understand it versus, hey, they sent me these numbers and just, oh, great, we went up by 10%. Look at the numbers and say, hey, you know what? Is there something that doesn't seem right here? If it is, go back and ask them because you can now talk intelligently about it.
Yeah, I agree. And so that brings us to our second story tonight, and this comes from the Instagram business blog. And this is about Instagram stories. And this also came out September 12th, giving advertisers more flexibility in Instagram stories. Now, there is a ton in this article, Christian.
Yes.
We're going to have to piecemeal this. because there's really a lot here. And they said since first launching Instagram Stories in August 2016 and ads in Stories in March of this year, it's been exciting to see how our community of businesses has taken this full screen experience and made it their own. In just 1 year, the Stories format has changed the way brands connect with more and inspire their customers, with more than 50% of businesses having created a story in the last month. So there's 250 million people around the world who watch and create stories every day. That's a larger number than I was aware of. But so this new, and so on the 12th, they were giving advertisers more flexibility with how they create and buy ads in the Stories feature on Instagram. So they're going to have an integration with Facebook Canvas, offering a seamless extension of the full screen experience. And they're adding an full screen experience of Instagram Stories, and uploading tool that allows businesses to use their existing organic stories as ads in Power Editor and Ads Manager, unlocking the creative tools of the native Instagram Stories camera, and placement optimization to run campaigns across Facebook, Instagram, and Audience Network. So this first item is capturing attention with Canvas. I've never used Canvas. It's not something I'm familiar with. With the ability to utilize Facebook's fast-loading full-screen Canvas format in Instagram Stories, marketers are able to use their creative versatility of Canvas to tell compelling brand and product stories. So, Christian, inform me. And Mo, are you familiar with Canvas at all? Mo, before I move on to Christian, to maybe have him explain this a little bit more?
Very little.
Very little. Okay. So, yeah. Christian, elaborate on this so we can opine.
So here's the thing. Facebook Canvas ads, they're the ability to create full screen ads basically on Facebook. Now, if you look at the example actually I shared in over here on Zoom, this is actually, it's pretty amazing because it's basically going to let you as a business owner create. So for example, if you run an ad, it might be one ad that somebody views and then they have to go off to see something else. In this case, you can create a full screen story within Instagram using the Canvas feature of Facebook. So basically, it's using Facebook's Canvas tool.
Okay.
To be able to then run an ad. So it's basically an extension of the full screen experience of Instagram Stories.
Okay.
So you can run, for instance, an Instagram ad that is like something smaller, and then maybe that jumps you into Canvas, which gives you the ability to have basically almost, in a way, it could be almost like an explainer video, if that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
So that's one thing you could do, but it's a way to create an immersive experience.
Okay. Okay. So we've covered this before, Christian, that I have not really incorporated the use of Instagram for experts.com. I don't believe that we have the content that would really drive any sort of real interaction on Instagram. Mo, what are your thoughts? You're using it on your personal page quite successfully, but you also, I think we're mentioning that you're not using the stories. Have you thought about expanding into Instagram for the firm?
We started a page a couple years ago when we had a young college student to get one started, and we really haven't touched it. Okay. And I think from a business perspective, I think it's one of those things, depending upon what your business is, that I think you could do well. There was one of the presenters today was talking about how to use Instagram, and he was showing a couple of real estate agents and showing just static pictures of homes and people with a for sale sign. And then he went into some pictures of a really good real estate agent who's using it and using the stories feature and using other things to really show her human side and the human side of her customers and the people that she represents. And it really, brought everything to life. But I did do some little bit of research on the Canvas stuff here, and it certainly brings the ad to life and gives a more full experience for a user. So I think as a business owner, you could really, incorporate that to really sell whatever you're pitching more. Mm-hmm. And it almost, the one or two I think I saw in a couple of examples was more almost like an infographic that you could take it and then really detail a whole type of more information in a user-friendly format than maybe it's just a static ad.
Right. Right, and I think that's good, and I also really like this idea. And Chelsea Pites, in the comments here, she mentioned uh, the existing stories idea is interesting. Using an existing story as part of the ad, if I'm understanding it correctly, that I like because I enjoy telling stories on Snapchat, Instagram stories. When I do them, there I can do it just almost exactly the same. And I do like the idea of maybe telling a story using and then using that as an ad. And I think you could do that. I think even law firms could do that. I think that's more important than just a static ad at the end of something. Uh, Christian, we've got a lot more in this article. So we had, besides the capturing attention with Canvas, inspiring engagement with new creative tools. They have the full screen format, giving them the ability to upload their existing organic creative ad. This new uploading feature allows advertisers to extend the reach of their existing stories creative and have it live permanently within the Power Editor and Ads Manager for future use. I think that was sort of the using the story. Am I reading that correctly, that that's using the story as part of your ad?
Yes.
Okay. And then they have capturing value with placement optimization. Now, this is usually what any business is interested in. Where's my placement going to be? Looking to build awareness around its newest beauty products, Genoptics, Procter & Gamble ran a split test to see how Instagram stories performed in conjunction with its feed campaigns across Facebook and Instagram. So rather than showing up in the feed, it's showing up in the stories. It achieved a brand lift of plus 13 points for its new product and plus 30% reach among its target audience of females in Japan, versus running on Instagram and Facebook feed alone. So there seems to be a lift in their visibility by doing some ads and stories. Advertisers are seeing success in driving incremental impact when adding Instagram stories to their campaigns. So this is encouraging. That's obviously a large company who's doing it and noticing a lift. Now I have the impact of when I see an ad pop up at the end of a story that I'm watching, I skip it. So but it seems to be this must be very targeted because they went for females in Japan ages 18 to 54. So it seems to be a very targeted. And if you're going for very targeted, Mo, if you were looking for people in Huntsville, ages from certain ages to certain ages, for estate planning reasons, you might be able to really drill down to that appropriate demographic. And I think the stories, the way that you do, Mo, the way that you do your tips from Mo and your daily tips from Mo, I think the stories would be a good place for you to even expand on some of what you do behind the scenes or before going into court. It's a fun, the stories are fun as long as you're telling it in a story format.
Yeah, I like that. That's a great idea. And that's a cool way in that we could show a little behind the scenes of what goes on in the practice of law or doing, or just practical legal tips or information that we could share with an audience on the stories feature. I like that.
Yeah, and then it looks like you can then save that stories in your ads manager and possibly reuse that as an ad later on. So if you do one that you really like, save that, and maybe you do that as a promoted story later on. Are we getting that correct, Christian? Are we reading this right?
You are reading that right, yes. And here's the other thing. I think that what's important also to note about this, one is the testing aspect. So being able to run a split test, to be able to see, hey, I'm going to run some Instagram stories, some ads here with this, but I'm also going to test over on Facebook and see what works. So that's one thing I think is key for a business owner is, to not just say, well, hey, everybody's using Facebook, I'm going to use Facebook, because my business, maybe Instagram is the place that I need to be. So do some split testing. That's the first thing. And then the other thing that's also really great about this is, they let you run basically a cohesive campaign. So you can run certain things on one channel, certain things on another, and then they can all kind of, fall into place. Kind of what Chelsea mentioned, actually. She mentioned, it's almost like a mini landing page. You could run a Facebook ad that is specific about like one particular topic or one aspect maybe of your Instagram story. And that could drive somebody over to the Instagram story that has essentially this full on, piece of information that they can get there. So I think overall, I mean, as a business, if you're not tapping into this, it's a good place to start. And by the way, I did share a guide in there from Facebook to help everybody who wants to learn about Canvas ads. Facebook has some links buried at the bottom. They do say how to create Canvas for ads in stories on Instagram. Very simple. It's a quick 10-step process, and then how to create Canvas. But it's all basically right there outlined for you.
Excellent. I do want to say thank you to some folks for tuning in tonight. We've got a great group of people here. We got Leslie Gustafson's here, Chelsea Pites, the Sassy Survivor, Janelle, and Nicola Boods with us, and Bernard's iPhone. Bernard's iPhone is new. Is Bernard a friend of yours, Mo?
It is. I believe that's Bernard Nomberg. He's a friend of mine, and he's actually here at the conference, and he's a lawyer out of Birmingham, and good friend, and is really doing a good job on marketing.
Awesome.
It's good to have you,
and he's
Bernard.
really gotten into doing Facebook Live. So thanks for joining us, Bernard.
Great. Thanks for joining, Bernard. So our next story, this brings us more into Canvas. This comes from TechCrunch on September 12th. Facebook brings its Canvas ad format to Instagram stories. And so this is really sort of an extension of what we just talked about, it seems. Instagram just announced several new features that you want me to skip this one, Christian? Is it?
Yeah, I think it's actually the same. I think
it's the same thing.
Yeah, I think TechCrunch is right in their own example of this.
All right. So our last story then for tonight.
Actually, I have one other story I do want to drop in.
Drop it in.
It's actually about Facebook events. You and I think we're talking about this recently, and this is actually an update from Facebook. So if you're on a Facebook page, what you can do now is you can go into your Facebook events. You can go to your Facebook page and you can see all of the events that you've ever run. You can see how many people are actually attending, how many people do you invite. Facebook is making some changes. They've added this to the publishing tools section. Do you mind if I share my screen real quick?
Go ahead. Let me hold on. We have one of our participants who has their audio on. That's probably Leslie. So I'm going to mute her and then go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to go and share my screen here. Just want to show you guys this new feature. You and I were looking at it, Nick. We run a Facebook event for every single episode of Social Chatter. But previously, here's what would happen. You would go to your Facebook page, you would go to events, and then you'd have to go down here and you'd have to, let me find the event that I'm running. Oh, hey, I want to, let me go to this one. Let me go in, as you can see, it's kind of complicated. I don't want to say complicated. It's just very time consuming. How many people did I, reach? How many people viewed it? How many people responded? That sort of thing. So now what Facebook is doing instead is you can go all the way back to your Facebook page, very simple, and go to the publishing tools section here at the top. And there's now an events section listed here. Pull this up. So if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you're going to see this event section. And you're going to see published events, drafts, and archived events. And you're going to easily be able to now, if I click on, for instance, events, let's see if this loads, there we go. You can get all of that particular data about your event that you have. Okay. So this is published. You can go in and look at any drafts. You can look at your archived events. So you can get a snapshot of what's going on. But as you see here, I can actually hover over this. And if this is an existing event, I can share it easily from here. If I want to duplicate this event, this is also super handy. I can duplicate the event right from the publishing tools section on my page. I can also choose to promote it and run a Facebook ad if I want to for this particular event as well. And I want to kind of show you guys a little sample of this real quick. So let's
Mo, this is the benefit. You've done the Mo show many times from your personal profile. This would be the benefit of either tying it into the Martinson Beeson profile or page, or creating a Mo show page. would be you'd be able to set up some of these events this way, which I know that kind of the promotion of it has been difficult for you in the past from the personal profile
Right.
scheduling. This would be one of those things that would help out a lot with that.
And so, by the way, when you're looking at this, like if I go to that event and I click promote, Facebook automatically in Ads Manager selecting they're selecting, in this case, the engagement option for the campaign.
Okay.
And I can go in there and I can say, hey, in this case, I'm running this for an event. Do I want post engagement? Do I want page likes? Do I want event responses? So you could target people based on the fact that they said they were, going to your event, people that you sent things to, and so forth.
Awesome. So, I like that. Yeah, I didn't see a link. I must have missed over that because was there a link to that in what you said?
There's not really a link.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's more a feature. So
that may have been where I missed it. I like that. That's helpful for setting up the events. And Mo, that's, with the Mo show, which has been fantastic every time you've had it. And I know that you've had time. It's difficult to keep a show running every week. But if you can schedule in advance and even duplicate the event, certain aspects of it, and have your images done, then it can make it pretty simple for you.
Yeah, that seems to go along with one of the first things we were talking about, which is Facebook taking an effort to streamline things and kind of put everything in one hub. And so to be able to have your events listed there and to be able to see what you're reaching on different events, and it might give you some data as a business owner as to know, well, why did this event, seem to reach this many more people? Was it the topics that we were covering, or the guests? Certainly not here. Was it, what was out there that allowed, episode 108 for you guys to have such interaction, whereas 105 here was not. And but that's a cool way to do that. And then it certainly seems to be able to promote and do all within that one thing, saves a bunch of steps. And I'm definitely going to be doing the event stuff. And I've got a Mosho Facebook page, but I'm going to have to transition or cross promote. Yeah.
Yeah. And because, the one that I was bummed that I missed the actual live performance on, and I think that a lot of other people would have really liked, is you had was it NASA? You had the person from NASA.
Yeah.
And I think it had the event been out there ahead of time, and maybe even just a little bit of promotion on it, even promote it or sponsor it a little bit. I think you could have gotten a lot more interaction on that with this type of thing. And you could have set it 2 weeks in advance. That way people know that this is coming up, and then you could get the feedback on it. What kind of Christian does that, thanks for coming, Nicole. Does the feedback or the statistics on that, the reports, do they give you views for the event? How many views you had if it was a Facebook Live event?
It's a particular it doesn't tie the Facebook Live event into that specifically.
Okay.
It's just for the events portion of your Facebook page.
Okay.
So for example, if we were running a Facebook Live and then we had an event that was saying, hey, join the Facebook Live that's coming up, and it had a link to the Facebook Live, they're totally separate stats.
Okay. All right.
But the benefit to this, though, as a business, is it helps you make more informed decisions because you have the data. You have the data to back it up, knowing, hey, I invited, 100 people, for instance, and only 5 people showed up. Maybe I need to consider promoting my event. Maybe there's something wrong with the event, for example.
Or the guest.
Maybe you need to even tap into that feature for Facebook events, where once you create an event, if you scroll to the bottom of the event, there's actually a Facebook Messenger feature where you could send an individual message to someone as well.
Yeah. I always figure that it's an issue with the host rather than the guest. And but Mo, the other one that this would be huge for, or that I think would be huge in your practice, was, we had talked about it once before, as a former football player, college football player, and with all the CTE and brain injury stuff related to football, and you talked about trying to get some neurologists on, as well as some other football players on. Scheduling that in advance with such a hot topic like that, and then people could, oh shoot, this is coming up, this is something I think I'd like to see. That, what a great feature for that.
Yeah, that is really good. And it just goes back, when we talk from a small business perspective, and we talk about this in our mastermind group, Nick, and this was talked about some today in our marketing summit here, which is it's all about pre-promotion and post-promotion and doing. And so this is just, what Christian's bringing to the table here is just a way to streamline that and set that event up, and then allowing you to digest, what you got out of that. And
Right.
so, again, data, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. That's right. And with that, let me pull us over to, let's see if I close this, and our last story for the night, WhatsApp. WhatsApp's first ads appear on Facebook and start convos with businesses. This comes from TechCrunch. Came out September 8th. So WhatsApp is preparing to finally monetize, and its first move follows the same strategy as Facebook Messenger. TechCrunch has discovered code in Facebook's ad manager that lets businesses buy ads with a call to action, send WhatsApp message. We reached out for comment, and WhatsApp spokesperson told TechCrunch, we're testing a new way for people to start a chat with a business in WhatsApp from a Facebook ad. This makes it easier for people to connect with businesses that they care about on WhatsApp. They clarified that for now, WhatsApp isn't selling ads on its own app, but testing a WhatsApp chat button on Facebook ads that directly opens a conversation with a business in WhatsApp. NextWeb's Matt Navarra initially spotted the WhatsApp name in Facebook's ad manager code in a way that didn't describe how the ads work. Upon further investigation, TechCrunch found this, in quotations, send WhatsApp message code. I think the big part of this, Mo, and we talked about this a little last week, Christian, I think, and in fact, I brought it up on Tuesday with one of our friends, Jim Hacking, who's an immigration attorney. And I told him that we had just talked about some of these items last week. And WhatsApp is so big outside the U.S. Mm-hmm. And so much communication outside the U.S. And I asked Jim about it, and he said they do have somebody at his firm who I think was of Iraqi descent who works in his firm. And they get a lot of questions. He gets a lot of the questions from through WhatsApp. And I thought, when I saw this, I thought to myself, this is the type of thing, if they run ads in particular markets that they're trying to reach outside the U.S. of people who are trying to emigrate to the U.S. and allow them to communicate through WhatsApp, which is something they're already really, most everybody's communicating through WhatsApp outside of the U.S., this could be big for him. This could be a great funnel for him. Any thoughts on this? It's not WhatsApp ads. It's running a Facebook ad with the ability to communicate through WhatsApp, send a message using WhatsApp. Any thoughts, Christian?
Overall, I will say this. I think this is helping create that complete campaign for a business. So, for example, if I'm on and I'm glad you mentioned that, WhatsApp is big outside of the U.S. I mean, it's huge outside the U.S. And, this is a way also as a business, if I am building my business on WhatsApp and a lot of people don't know I'm there, I can run a Facebook ad now to, or potentially if this rolls out, I can run an ad to bring people that are on Facebook. They might be on Facebook looking for me. Right. I could run something, for instance, to drive them back to my WhatsApp conversation. Now, granted, you look at this and you're like, well, hey, they're just messaging apps. Like, why am I using WhatsApp and why am I using Facebook and this and this and this? It's not about why are you doing it? It's where's your customer? If your customer is on, in this case, it might be worthwhile testing this out when it does roll out to give you some indicators whether you need to spend more of your time on Facebook or you need to stick to that WhatsApp strategy.
Yeah. Mo, any thoughts on this? Have you used WhatsApp at all for yourself? I don't use it. I haven't had a reason to use it, but I think that this could be very good for like I said, for Jim and others who have clients or customers who are outside the U.S.
No, I could certainly see them applicable. I have not used it, but then at least so as I understood the article reading, prepping for the show tonight, the initial application of this is to take the Facebook ads, and it's a way for a potential client or potential customer for that company to contact that company through that ad. And it's essentially for people who, try to, somebody's watching that didn't have much familiarity with WhatsApp, but like I did before I kind of did a little research. It's just a texting application that it allows people to text or send pictures, or I think even call and you maybe not to have to use your data plan to have text messages and stuff. But this, what I've found from a business perspective and some stuff we've done recently is we found that clients really interact better sometimes with text messages and faster. Not to keep hammering on things from the conference today, but one of the presenters was talking about texting and talking about that their data has found that the average consumer responds to a text message within 90 seconds. And they said that didn't even change from a business perspective, where it may take on average 23 hours for somebody to respond to an email if they're going to respond at all. Mm-hmm. So here, from this perspective, if I'm a business owner and I think that some of my clientele may be using WhatsApp, then certainly why would I not want to have that as a feature of a way for them to engage and communicate with me in an instant society type way that's what they're using that feature for. I think it's great. And, certainly if our law firm thought that we're, WhatsApp was something that some of our, potential clients or people that may have legal needs would do that, then I think it would be something we certainly want to look at.
And I think that's the big point. I think that's the big takeaway there, Mo. You talked about it already. You guys have been implementing more use of texting, just texting through ZipWhip and through Google. You and I, when we communicate to set something up, don't do it through email. We go right to Messenger. So if WhatsApp is the one that they're using, but that's where you and I have set up our last 2 or 3 meetings that might be outside the Legal Minds group. I message you, well, when are you available? I'm available now, or I can't do it now. Let's do it, So it's just a faster way to do it. Christian and I, for 90% of our communications is through iMessage or Facebook Messenger, and we see each other face to face in here. So I think that's just the way that it's going, and the response rate is much higher. Christian, that's all for our topics tonight. Are you ready for some tools?
Yeah, we could talk tools. Yeah, I just want to ask though real quick. I mean, I use WhatsApp a lot where I'm currently at. How many of you who are watching, how many of you are using WhatsApp? How big of a role is that playing in your business? And knowing that there might be some monetization strategies and things like that coming out, how many of you are planning to maybe increase your WhatsApp usage? I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Anybody in the chat, please share with us while we step into. Bernard says he'll look into it. Go ahead and jump into the tools while we take in some questions here or some comments. Chelsea says she never used it, but it's going to become a big player. And we want to welcome Joanne Krall for joining. Thanks for joining us tonight, Joanne. Christian, what's our tool?
Okay, so our first tool. So we got 2 tools for you tonight, and the first one is called Touch Retouch. And what this is, here's the thing. It's a tool to help you do something faster. So we try to pick tools that are, helping improve your efficiency. So what this does is you can take photos with your iPhone, and in this case, if you want to remove an object, let's say you took a photo and you happen to capture something, like maybe there's a person you want to remove. Instead of having to say, well, hey, let me take that, because sometimes you want to take a photo and you don't have time to take another one. What you can do is you can paint in the photo. You basically paint and remove yourself or remove whatever the object is right from your mobile device. Now, you can do this from your desktop, with many applications, but this actually lets you do it on your phone.
Okay.
So, if you're, for instance, say you took a photo at a conference and you're like, hey, I want to remove this particular object. You just open the app, open the photo, paint, and then it removes it, and it does all of the calculations to replace that object with the pixels behind it. So that's the first tool for today.
I like this. I think this could just be fun to play with. If you're, who I think's going to like this, Mo? I think Wyatt's going to enjoy this.
Oh man, yeah, that's my little one. Yeah, I would love this, and he would love this too. He'd probably wipe my head out on most of the pictures. But that is really cool because from, I had, speaking of that, I have this picture in my mind that I've got, this awesome picture that somebody took years ago of Wyatt and I sitting on a bench, and all you can see is me. And then you see Wyatt's little head when he's probably 2.5 years old. And it's on a bench is out in front of our law firm, and there's a car in front of it. It's just parked in the front. And I would love to be able to take that car out, but I'm not that tech savvy. I could have easily gotten somebody to do it. But Christian, this is a great tool that I could go in and really just literally, it sounds like paint that picture, that car, and it would pull it out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is very cool. And you know me, Christian, I am not big on so many tools because I feel like I can get bogged down in tools. But I think this could it seems simple enough for those of us who aren't as technically savvy as you are. I mean, it looks simple enough for just any user who wants to take out, one of these items. It looks like they want to take out a trash can or something like that while she's on the bike, just to make it a little bit more elegant of a photo. And I think that's pretty cool.
Well, the other cool thing is that you could use it on the fly, right? So, for somebody like me, if I'm taking a selfie or I'm taking a picture or doing something like at a conference like this that I'm at, but then I happened, like Christian said, I got one chance real quick to catch his photo, and then I noticed that there's something in there that I may want to take out real quick, but I would like to go ahead and share it out now. Then this allows me to do it on the fly.
On the fly. And, our friend Mitch Jackson's always telling us that we got to get used to doing it. He always shows the phone when he tells us that, right? You got to get used to doing it on the phone. And this seems like it's a very fast way to just clean up the photo and make it look. Yeah, I'm sure in Nashville you might see something that you want to send back to your wife and son, while you're, and then you take it, I got a little bit of this in here and I can just scrub off a little bit of this and it looks like a better picture.
And Christian, is this a paid app, and how much is it?
This is a paid app. It's $2 though, but you also have to look at it from this perspective. It's it's an app that you would download. It's a one-use type app thing. So you keep it on your device. You're going to use it sporadically. You'll get your $2 back easily. You would easily spend $2 in time just by, saying, hey, let me either try to take the photo again. You're wasting everybody's time, possibly trying to get everybody back together. And then on top of that, if you want to do this on a desktop, it requires then, hey, I take the photo, I got to then transfer it and so forth. So you can do it all right there, but it's $2.
I like that. And what's our second tool for tonight?
So the second tool, and I am really, really, really excited about this one. And the reason I'm so excited about this one is I think this is a tool that every business owner should have. It is called Hotjar. And I know the name probably doesn't make any sense. But what this does, and this is just what's so awesome about this. So it adds heat mapping to your website. It does a couple of things. It adds heat mapping. So for example, if I were working on my website and I said, hey, you know what? Do I want to have my logo here or do I want to have it, over here? I could see what people are doing on my website. For instance, is their mouse spending the most time trying to click here, thinking this is a hyperlink? Maybe it's not, for instance. And they're trying to click. And I'm wondering, well, why are people, what's happening on my website? Like I can learn what people are clicking on. I can also use it though from a business perspective and see, for instance, if I'm trying to sell products, where are people falling out in my shopping cart? For instance, it might be complicated to add a product. So this will actually show you the heat mapping aspect. Now, the other aspect, though, that is super awesome about this is that it gives you a recording of the person's session. So it doesn't tell me that, like, hey, Nick's the person checking out or that it's Morris here. But it does show me exactly what people are doing. So I see when you're scrolling on the page. I see if you are, like for instance, if I added a new section, I see that, you're not clicking on this try it for free button. You might be going down here and clicking on, this one, for instance.
You know what I like this for in your business, Mo? What I'd love to see is how many people, and I don't know how good it is. Maybe this works. I only have ever seen it from a user standpoint when I visit a law firm site and then that thing pops up and says, can we help you now? And I click no because I don't need your help right now. But I think that this would be really interesting to see how big the activity is. How good are the cases that are coming in when somebody responds on that versus how many people are really annoyed by this type of pop-up. I think that could be very telling.
Yeah, I agree. And Christian, this is really cool with the heat mapping because, and this one of the topics that we'll talk about tomorrow, and we've talked a little bit about today at this conference is, when you're designing your website, you're constantly tweaking and changing everything. So we've made recent tweaks to some of our sites, our mobile site, and our desktop site, and trying to figure out, did those tweaks work? Are people really responding to those changes? Maybe you're looking at changing out a picture or doing something like that. Or, as saying, Christian was talking a little bit earlier about comparing different things in different platforms and doing different silos and different tests on it. So this could certainly allow you to do that and really get some feedback. And I've heard of heat mapping, but I've never heard where you can do the kind of watch their screening. So Christian, how would that work? Can you go back and see like individual, how many users or how long does it store each, session for each person that came on your site?
So the way it works is they give you, basically they give you a certain number of views. So for example, from a pricing standpoint, you can actually go on here and say, well, hey, I have, how many page views, for instance, because it is available as a free option. There's a limited plan with 2,000 page views per day. So it basically collects that data. And then they store it for 3 months. They then have the plus plan, which is like $29 a month, but it stores it for 6 months. You also get unlimited reporting with that. And then if you're a business and you have, a certain number, 20,000 page views, for example, it's $90 a month. And it stores it for up to a year.
Okay.
So here's the thing.
I think this would be fun I think I may use this for the company, just the free one to begin with, just to see if I'm getting any data that I really can use. And then I might find that, oh, you know what, we are getting some good data here. I really want to see what 10,000 page views a day is like. And I think for a lot of businesses, 2,000 page views per day, probably sufficient.
Mm-hmm. And well, the key thing about all this is, if I can, for instance, if I'm selling any sort of products on my website, it could be products, it could be services, it could be ebooks, it doesn't matter what you're selling, by having a tool like this on your website. And this is why I'm so excited about this. Actually, I think this is almost like a must have for a business, because if I'm spending, for instance, let's say I spend $30 a month on the plus plan, I am able to at least know that, I'm making tweaks to my website that, hey, it's $30 a month and that might generate $1,000 of business, or it might generate just $100 more of business. But I'm able to get a return on my investment by knowing where I need to make those tweaks versus guessing.
Yeah, I've got, if we are losing people who go to the contact us, but we're not getting any contacts, then, we get dozens of people a day going to contact us, but we're not getting any emails. We got something we need to fix.
Yeah. And it could be an issue of like, maybe the form is broken. It could be the fact that, maybe the form's too long. Or maybe people are trying to load the page and they're getting an error and you're not getting it. And here's the thing. What typically happens when you have an issue? Nobody tells you about it, right?
Right.
They don't tell you about it. And so, you're assuming, well, hey, everything's fine. I'm going to just go through and just continue doing my business. But in this case, you're able to get that feedback from your customers you're able to get the feedback without actually having to say, hey, Morris, take the moment to fill out this form. You mentioned earlier, Nick, you put a form on there and people typically, they stop using it.
Right.
They X out of it. So that's the second tool for everybody.
I like that. These are good tools tonight. I really like both of these.
I really like both of them. Awesome stuff.
Yeah. So Mo, tell us how people can get in touch with you. Follow the Mo Show and Tips from Mo. How do they find you on the social channels, or where should they get in touch with you?
Yeah. Well, again, first and foremost, thank you guys for having me and for putting this on. And it's really informative from a small businessman's perspective of trying to take some of these tools and implement them in my professional and, my personal social media strategy. But yeah, I'm on Facebook and Morris Lilienthal. It's Morris Lilienthal. You can find my law firm is at martinsonandbeeson.com. We've got a Facebook page, and then it's Mo Scott 73 MO Scott 73 is my Twitter handle. And then I think it's Mo Lilienthal on Instagram. But I have a, kind of inspired by Miss Jackson, I do a daily video tip, and it's a lot of times life tips, fun tips, and do that. And gotten a lot of traction with those and really enjoy doing that and hearing back from people. And then I usually host a bi-weekly Facebook Live show where I try to bring on different guests talking about either community service or things that are going on in the community that I'm involved with or have a passion for, or things that are of interest in our community or in and around. So that was kind of my last show, was the director of communications for our Marshall Space Flight Center, which is our NASA installation in Huntsville. So really appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey, we appreciate having you, Mo. Great to have you on. Christian, any final wrap up before we close out for the evening?
I just wanted to mention to everyone, next week we have another show. We will be on at 10 o'clock p.m., same time. Same time. We're going to have Nat Wang on next week.
Yep.
She's been a frequent follower or viewer of the show. She's been watching since Blab.
No, I don't think she's been watching since Blab. Nope,
a while.
She's been watching for a while. Yeah. Good friend of ours. Good friend of the show. So thanks again, Mo. Thanks, Christian. And we will see you all next week. Have a good evening, everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.